Hi guys. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I recently reached out to some of my Facebook communities asking if they would like to share their story, but they wouldn't necessarily want to be on camera because it can be daunting um, to send me their story, and I would read it for you guys, and hopefully um, help someone out there with this that might have a similar experience. So I did get a submission, and I wanted to go ahead and read that for you and see what you thought. So let's get to it. So she did not say one way or the other if she'd be okay with me sharing her name. So I'm going to choose to leave her anonymous. Um, she said, I was reading on Facebook that you'd like to hear stories from mothers who've been estranged by their daughters. To clarify, daughters or sons, that's fine, and mothers or fathers. But here's my story. She says, I have two daughters, one 40 years old, who is loving and kind to me always, and one 41 years old, who's become cold and non communicative with me, saying I was abusive and neglectful, and telling everyone she meets how horrible her childhood was because of me. In fact, I've always been a kind and loving person, a mother, a social worker for the elderly and developmentally disabled adults for 30 years, not a mean bone in my body. I took care of her long after high school, and I took care of my grandson, her son, out of wedlock for many years also. They lived in my home rent free. I worked full time. She would not get a job and was miserable and had no patience with her young ADHD child. After many years of this, I told her she must get a part time job for her own mental health and gave her a year to do so. She refused, so I told her she could no longer live in my home. I gave her money to get an apartment. Now, let me stop here for just a second. Um, for this mom, I just want to say that it would appear that you did do everything you could. You helped her. Obviously, we're parents until they become adults. It's kind of our job to be there for them. But you were obviously there for her for a number of years after that too, both her and her son, your grandson. So it certainly seems like, um, from your description, that you were certainly there for them. So hopefully, um, you've reconciled whether or not you feel like you've done enough for her. So I'll continue. Her story now is that I kicked her and her son out on the street, even though she took care of me for so many years, and I was abusive and did terrible things, all so untrue. This was 11 years ago, and though I provided her with cash and a car and continued to help her through many crises, she plays the victim and has cut off all contact with me, telling all those who will listen that I'm the evil mother who is to blame for her terrible life. This past year, she even legally changed her entire name. I'll stop again. I hear this a lot from parents. I the story, whether it's purposeful or not, is unclear. But the story oftentimes changes, you know, and like I said, whether it's purposeful or not, it's sometimes their perception of what happened. Obviously, if there clearly was not, physical abuse or mental abuse or any other kind of abuse, then that's a little different area. But sometimes with things, they can say that you were unkind or whatever, and that you constantly yelled at them or, many different things. And they can view that as abusive or neglectful or whatever. I say all the time that we were not given a handbook with this. So it's, most of the time it's doing the best we can. And I feel like as long as you come from a place of sincereness and love, then that's all you can do. It may not be enough, but that's truly all you can really do, I think. So let's continue. I do see here, he said, against all odds, I've kept constant contact and communication with my grandson any way I could. He's now 19 and living on his own, and we love each other very much, even though he's bombarded with horrible, untrue stories about me from his mom. That's great as far as you being able to stay in contact with him, because so many of us and so many of the parents out there don't have that. So, as I'm sure you do, treasure that. Obviously, you do, but a lot of people don't have that. So, I'm glad. I fervently tried over the years to figure out what was wrong with my daughter, and happened to find out from a coworker that her daughter did exactly the same things to her, and her daughter was diagnosed with a mental illness I knew nothing about. BPD, or borderline personality disorder. Now, I want to caveat this just for those listening that I am not attempting to diagnose. I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist or psychologist. So it's difficult to talk about this stuff sometimes because you don't know the full extent of the story. Um, Understand that this is not a diagnosis, that this is definitely what's going on, but this is this mom's perception of what's going on, and in doing her research that she believes this is the culprit. So just wanted to throw that in there. um, you continue. I finally had an answer. I researched this illness endlessly, and all the pieces fit. Though there is no cure, at least I know how this is happening and find some comfort in this. The pain of losing her is ever present and crushing, but I hope my story can help others who are dealing with this horrible, life altering illness. Thank you for letting me share my story. No, I appreciate you for trusting me with your story. Um, Again, I'm not throwing any doubt on anything you say. I just want to, you know, err on the side of caution in any kind of diagnosis that is put out there. So, if those pieces seem to fit for you, it gives you comfort. That's the most important thing. I just want to make sure it's clear to the listeners that there's been no official diagnosis. You can't necessarily diagnose someone for a mental illness or really anything. And I certainly can't do that. I am glad that it gives you some comfort by sharing some of these stories and some of these similarities, even though you may not have a concrete answer sometimes. um, it does help. As I've said many times, simply knowing you're not alone out there in dealing with this is a huge, huge relief. It was to me. So hopefully that helps somebody. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel. Most of the people that hear or that listen to my videos and are watching the YouTube channel are not subscribers. So if you could like and subscribe the video, subscribe. If you got benefit out of the video, feel free to hit me up in the comments section below. Um, and if you would like to reach out to me personally, my email address is beyondthepainpodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. If you would like to share your story in this manner, please feel free to reach out to me. I can I can do that. So if you'd like to reach out to me, feel free, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.